Hello everyone, great to have you here on the channel of MeteoMark Weather. Hope everybody's having a good day or good night. We are looking at a lot of tropical activity. We just had Potential Tropical Cyclone 8 form off the Carolina coastlines here, and we also have Tropical Storm, Tropical Depression Gordon here that's going to be bouncing back and forth between intensity here, a lot of dry air affecting the system. And we're also going to be looking at a potential tropical moisture and maybe a tropical storm surge here into the Western Caribbean, Eastern Gulf, as well as the MDR as we get into the last week of September. We'll take a look at all your weather from North America to the Western Pacific and Atlantic. Let's get into it. Now, here's our infrared satellite analysis of potential tropical cyclone 8. You can see deep convection forming around just northeast of the center of circulation. Tropical storm force winds extending out north and northeast of the center of circulation. It is likely to become our next tropical storm as it nears the South Carolina coastline here through 2 p.m. on Monday afternoon. So we're watching this storm very closely as it approaches the Carolinas. So starting off with our European model here, and we'll propagate towards the GFS model. So yeah, our potential tropical cyclone 8, it was Invest 95L. That is what we're going to be focusing on first here before we get into the rest of your tropics, which get very interesting, especially this next weekend and the following week. So as we get into the 17th here, there it is. Yeah, the European model has slowed our system down here. So whatever happens to potential tropical cyclone number 8 here, this storm heading inland and lots of heavy rain. So whatever becomes of it, the big story is going to be the heavy rain. Some areas in the Carolinas could get upwards of 4 to 7 inch plus. And as we head into the 19th and the 20th, you see it's trying to form like two areas. Euro keeps one area back here across the mid-Atlantic and another secondary low development out over the Atlantic here. Now, Gordon is, really struggling here. I'm going to go over the dry air analysis with Gordon. It may try to re-strengthen and head west of the Azores here around this blocking high that's just east of the Azores. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Now, here's where things get interesting. Take a look at this. As we get through the Caribbean, we start to see increased tropical moisture here in the northwestern Caribbean, west of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands around the 18th. Now watch what happens here around the 20th and particularly around the 21st. We do start to get a lot more tropical wave action here into the Northwest Atlantic, or Caribbean for that matter. That's when we'll start to see some very heavy rains around Jamaica and the Cayman Islands that could total more than 100 millimeters in some of these areas. Main development region out here in the Cape Verde season really picking up here with lots of tropical wave action we'll be watching as we head into the 22nd here. So let's just put this into motion. Things are really going to be opening up here into the northwestern Caribbean. You can see a big, strong tropical wave here, continuing with lots of tropical moisture. That's going to start feeding northward here. So we're going to start seeing heavier rains across Florida and the Bahamas here. This is the 23rd, and I'll show you on the GFS. It's really showing up quite nicely as well. But here into the 24th, you can see the Southern Gulf, Northwest Caribbean, and the Bahamas. We're just filling in with tremendous amount of tropical moisture here. So there's going to be this surge coming north here. There is a big blocking high up here into the northeast, so that'll be slowly sliding to the east. But look at this tropical wave action just lining up out here. Some of these look like monster tropical waves. We'll have to see if the dry air is going to weaken a little bit, because that could help things really begin to strengthen. But here on the 24th, this is where we start to get some real positive signals of potential development here. Just northwest of Jamaica, especially the Cayman Islands through the Bahamas, South Florida, Cuba. This is quite a surge, and the European is a bit further west here than the GFS. Let's take a look at the GFS. All right, before we continue with the GFS model for the tropics here, don't forget, if you've made it this far and you like this video, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe, bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. Let's continue. So looking at the GFS here is very similar to the European model, at least initially here. There's our potential tropical cyclone here, number 8. That will be making landfall. So it has a very short window of opportunity to become a tropical storm. You can see 5 a.m. here on Monday morning, essentially coming onshore here and heading inland. Tremendous rain. We'll go over those rainfall amounts momentarily in a couple minutes. but we could be looking at 4 to 7 inches with locally higher. You can see what it's going to be happening here is a very big blocking high to the northeast here. That'll be slowly retreating, allowing this system to pinwheel into the mid-Atlantic and eventually the northeast. Now, let's take a look here. We have Gordon out here. That's just going to be meandering for days. Lots of dry air to deal with. Here we go into the 18th. You can see potential, or whatever's happening with what's left of our potential tropical cyclone 8 re-exiting off the coast. So we're looking at some rainfall here that's going to be pinwheeling across the mid-Atlantic, parts of the northeast, and that will be exploding into a bigger low as we head towards, say, the 20th into the 21st. So here we go. Here's what's left of Gordon out here, mainly staying a fish storm as high pressure over the Azores here pretty much protects. Now look what's starting to develop here across the Caribbean here, just south of Jamaica around the 21st. And we also have a wave out here by the Cape Verde Islands. This is where things really start to become a bit more interesting. There it is right around Jamaica on the 21st. You could be looking at tremendous rainfall totals over 100 millimeters here, 3 to 4, 5, maybe 6 inches. But there it is. You see the low pressure center moving just west of Jamaica here. Tremendous deep tropical moisture moving up across the Bahamas here. This is exactly what was showing up on the Euro. And as we head through the 22nd here, that's going to funnel moisture all the way up into Florida here, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, the Bahamas, maybe as far east as Haiti and the Dominican Republic here. So we're going to have to watch out. We could be looking at, the GFS is pinwheeling a bit further to the east here than the European model. But there it is, the same idea. We could be looking at a developing tropical storm potential here. So as we go through the 23rd here into the 24th, that rides up the East Coast. You can see there is an area of low pressure. There's actually a couple areas of low pressure that could be trying to form out of this. But the thing that's going to be a problem here is this big blocking high is going to force this up the U.S. East Coast eventually. So as we look into next week, we could be looking at a big problem here, a big area of low pressure. This almost looks like hurricane just off of the New England coast. So this is a trend we're going to have to keep an eye on. It looks like at this time, it has its eye on the Canadian Maritimes, but at this far out, the margin of error is great. And look at this. As we head through the 26th, we got a big old tropical wave that looks very menacing out here just southeast of the Cape Verde Islands. And we'll have to keep close watch on that because the GFS is spinning that into a tropical storm. And then as we continue in time, there is a tropical wave moving through Puerto Rico and just east of Jamaica, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. We could be looking at October 1st here, a couple very vigorous waves, and then another one right off the southeast U.S. coastline here. So if we're taking a look at our dry air analysis here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits, you can see our system out here, Gordon, is being choked with dry air. That is the big issue. Our next system we're watching as well as off the southeast coast. It seems a little bit better for the dry air situation, but we're just dealing with a lot of dry air out here into the MDR. That's going to push westward towards the Caribbean. We do see a little bit of a reprieve here from the dry air around Gordon, but Gordon will be getting really choked off here at this point as we head through the 17th into the 18th and then eventually here into the 19th as well. So yeah, we're watching, a lot of dry air. Look at the Gulf here as well. And our system along the East Coast may affect the mid-Atlantic here, it's looking like. But yeah, we're kind of looking at very hostile conditions, at least through this week. And as we progress into next week, let's see if things becoming a little bit more favorable. It looks like, across the northwestern, western Caribbean, all the way to the eastern Gulf, right around Florida, there's positive signals here that we could be looking at some very stormy times here in the tropics, as well as the MDR out here pretty far to the south. We're looking at some potential here. Still looking at a lot of dry air out here into the eastern Caribbean, but we could be looking at some sort of tropical formation here as we head through the last week of September. All right, so here on the GFS, it's looking pretty similar here. Gordon is in a very hostile environment. The dry air here later Thursday into Friday. We'll be talking about Gordon for a while, but thankfully it looks like a fish storm for the most part. Here it is on the GFS as we continue. Let's just back that up. Our system, our North Carolina, South Carolina system, making landfall on Monday into Tuesday here, blocking high to the north here. So you can see how that's going to play out. That's going to kind of be forced westward here towards Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky here. So a lot of steady stream of tropical moisture as well. You can see here across the Eastern Gulf, Northwestern Caribbean. Here's Gordon just sitting out here and watching the intertropical convergence zone as we head throughout the week here. There's our system still kind of hanging out here into the mid-Atlantic. Gordon kind of getting caught up here in some dry air, and as well here Southern Caribbean, a big tropical wave, and that is where we start to see right around the time the European starts to hint at something. We could be looking at something here across the Northwestern and Western Caribbean, right around Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. This is something we're going to have to keep a very close watch on, because look what it does, the GFS, as we head through the 24th into the 25th. We could have some sort of tropical or even subtropical storm, and it could get very stormy here along portions of the East Coast. A lot can change between now and then, but we're looking at a very intense 988 millibar low winding up here towards the Canadian Maritimes and eastern New England. So that's a trend we're going to have to keep an eye on here. And then a system forming out here near the Cape Verde Islands. Gulf starting to open back up for business here, all the way up the East Coast here. So we will be watching the Caribbean as well as we head towards the end of the month into October 1st. I think things will start to really become a lot more active down here as well. So as we take a look at our medium range climate models here, you can see, there's that positive precipitation anomaly here with our Invest 95L system. Also out here south of the Cape Verde Islands, but look at that through the Caribbean and Gulf. We got some drier times ahead, but that is going to change as we head through the week of the 22nd through the 29th here. You can see this positive precipitation anomaly. This is where we could start to see some tropical storm formation as well as the MDR. The signals are pointing towards a much heftier parade of tropical systems as we head through the end of the month here. And you can see these areas kind of filling in. Northeast positive precipitation anomaly here as we head towards the first week of October through the 6th and the 13th here. Look at this. We're seeing some tropical formation potential here through the Caribbean, Southern Gulf, kind of shutting off the Cape Verde areas out here, but we could still be looking at some tropical areas as we head through the end of October here. And as we look at our CanSIPS model here, you can essentially see, this is going to be an active time as we head into October. So this is October, still looking pretty active here from the MDR, Caribbean especially. Eastern Gulf, off the southeast coast, I think we'll still need to really keep a close watch. As we head into November, still the possibility of some named storms from the MDR down into the Caribbean especially, and into December as well. We'll have to keep a watch on that. All right, look at the sea surface temperatures here. It's essentially bath water from the southern Gulf here through the Caribbean, parts of the MDR, up the U.S. East Coast as well. Lots of warm water up here off the Canadian Maritimes. But we still have a lot of abnormally warm sea surface temperatures to deal with here. Look at that, right around Florida as well. And looking down here into the Caribbean, Central America, we don't have too much rain this week. As we get towards, say, the 20th, 21st, 22nd, into next weekend, that's where we start to see some of this heavier rain. We're going to start to see a lot more tropical wave action here. There's positive signals that we're going to be looking at some potential development here. Cayman Islands through Jamaica, as we get through later into the next weekend into next week. Look at this, 100 to 150 millimeters in some of these areas. We could be looking at 3 to as much as 6 inches, as well as Central America. Getting down into the Eastern Caribbean, Eastern Bahamas. Look at this. We're looking at a lot of tropical wave action, especially as we head towards the last week of the month here. Look at over towards the Bahamas here. I mentioned that. Lesser Antilles, you could see a wave moving through a little bit later next week and the next weekend, looking on the order of 40 to 60 millimeters. Puerto Rico is kind of in a rain shadow here. Nothing more than 13 to 22 millimeters will net you around a quarter to a half an inch or less. So if we take a look at our rainfall amount, it's mostly going to be with potential tropical cyclone number 8 here. You can see across North and South Carolina. That is where we could see up to 4 to 7 inches, locally higher 8 to 10 possible here. Even up here into parts of Virginia, Delmarva area, Maryland, maybe south central Pennsylvania as well. We'll have to keep an eye out, see how far north this system gets as we continue throughout the week. Lots of severe weather the following week. As we head to the last week of September, we'll have to watch out for that. And some Gulf Coast moisture here, as well as South Texas. about 1 to maybe 3 inches of rain in some of these gully washers. Look at South Florida, though. You're going to be getting clipped here with that tropical moisture surge as we get into the last week of September. And we may actually get some rain here in southern New England. We'll have to keep a close watch on this system this week. So our future radar here is going to be look pretty interesting here with our potential tropical cyclone 8. As you can see, we go into time. The only areas we have for showers and storms here across the Gulf Coast states, all the way up to the mid-Mississippi River Valley, through the Florida and the Bahamas here. But there is our potential tropical cyclone 8. And look at South Texas here. You're actually getting some rainfall here south of San Antonio. Watch out, because those storms could propagate and develop up towards Austin here as we head towards 9 p.m. Sunday evening here. But there's our Invest 95, or what was Invest 95L becoming potential tropical cyclone 8. And look at that. As we head throughout Monday afternoon, it looks like there it is, the storm making landfall. It has a narrow window of opportunity to become a tropical storm with tremendous rains here in northeastern South Carolina and North Carolina. Look at that. Feeder band action continuing to spiral inland here towards Jacksonville, North Carolina, up to Raleigh, Durham area, up to Greensboro, and then back to Charlotte here. So that perfect comma-shaped really taking effect here. Whatever this becomes, it's going to be a very big, heavy rainmaker. And our NAM 3-kilometer future radar showing this heading as far west here as parts of eastern Kentucky, West Virginia here, and parts of the mid-Atlantic. Maybe some showers as far northwest as Cleveland here as we head on to Tuesday. There's 8 p.m. So watch out. There could be some, beneficial rain in some of these locations. So here we go, picking up where our future radar left off as we continue throughout the week here. There is what's going to be happening with our potential tropical cyclone 8 here. That's going to be heading inland the 17th into the 18th. It's going to be pinwheeling moisture here as far north as southern New York, Pennsylvania, the mid-Atlantic, and eventually New England here. It may try to head westward a little bit into Ohio and West Virginia. We'll have to keep an eye on that towards the 19th. But most of the moisture should stay east here over the mid-Atlantic and parts of New England. Now, the European model keeping this a little bit weaker. And then, there's 2 pieces of energy left with it here towards the 19th. So whatever happens with the system, a lot of heavy downpours will be occurring with this system. But there it is, heading out over the Atlantic, and then we'll be watching some more showers here into the 21st. The big story is going to be also out here into the plains. Plenty of activity and severe weather as these low pressures get cranking in eastern Colorado and Kansas here. Tremendous severe weather outbreak potential here. Now look at this as we head into the 23rd. We're watching, as I showed you in the tropics here, we're watching that tropical connection. Unfortunately, North Carolina, South Carolina look to be in the crosshairs, potentially Florida with this one as well. And there it is into the 24th, into the 25th. There is our next major storm system, though, here into parts of the Midwest and Ohio Valley. Look at that. That could have some strong to severe thunderstorms here by the 24th. So areas in this region might have to watch out. This blocking high will be slowly retreating. So this should actually allow this cold front to get further east here. Our last frame here on the 24th shows it just west of Cleveland and hit down here into Tennessee. So for our Canadian weather forecast here, that high pressure is just going to really be blocking here across much of eastern Canada, with the exception for northern Ontario and Quebec. You may have some showers kicking up here, but the big story is going to be here through the 18th into the 19th. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Western Ontario. We have a very vigorous storm system that's going to be heading northeastward here. Tremendous rainfall totals in excess of 100 millimeters in many areas. That low pressure kind of gets cut off and winds up and occludes over Manitoba and Saskatchewan here through the 19th. Watch out. Very heavy rain moving north here. And then look at this, towards the 21st, we don't have too much weather to talk about until we get to the 22nd. There it is, more activity across Saskatchewan and Manitoba here. Heavy rainfall amounts. Southeast Canada here, especially these areas staying very dry. Down to New Brunswick as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on that dry situation. But look at this, through the 24th, our last frame here, a big storm system from the United States here, heading into southern Ontario. And so for Canadian rainfall totals here, we're not looking at anything much until we get into later in the week, right around the 19th and 20th. Look at Southeast Canada, though. You can hard-pressed to find anything. But here, most of the rainfall is going to come from Saskatchewan, Manitoba, all the way through Western Ontario here, and western parts of British Columbia. These areas could easily see 90 to 125 plus millimeters. That's on the order of 3 to 5 inches plus. And your Western Pacific here, we actually have a typhoon to talk about. This is Typhoon Bebinca here. This storm has 80-mile-per-hour winds. Thankfully, it's not like a super typhoon or anything, but it has its eye on Shanghai. This will likely be making landfall as a Category 1 typhoon right around Monday, really early Monday morning here. Look at that. That storm pushing inland here and then moving inland and becoming a heavy rain and flooding threat. Behind that, we have a few areas that bear watching here in the South China Sea and then east of the Philippines as well. So watch out. The Philippines continuing to get some heavy monsoon rains here. And then look it up here into South Korea and Japan. From Seoul all the way eastward here to Japan, we're looking mostly clear with the exception for a few showers here east of Tokyo, Japan. We do have a little bit of a frontal boundary moving through the 18th, but look at this. The big story is going to be the tropical weather here in the South China Sea through the northern Philippines. We'll have to watch out for some potential tropical activity, but watch out because whatever happens with this storm, tremendous heavy rains here in North Vietnam and South China, here across Taiwan as well. And then look at some tropical moisture making its way up here into Japan. South Korea looks really nice though. And look at this. This system gets pretty elongated at this point. So this is the time of year we do start to see these synoptic fronts kind of stall out across the area. So we might have to watch out. Some of these areas of low pressure could form into something tropical. But at this time, they look pretty benign at this point. And before we continue with more weather, check out these awesome, amazing maps that you won't find anywhere else.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
So far, our temperatures here as we head throughout Monday here, there's the heat, upper 80s and lower 90s. We're holding on to some 70s and 80s here across the eastern Great Lakes, northeast, and down here with the clouds and the precipitation. Look what we're holding into the upper 70s, lower 80s from the parts of the Carolinas down through the deep south here. And a Tuesday, you can see where that rainfall is going to be heading here. Mid-Atlantic, parts of the eastern Ohio Valley and northeast, holding temperatures down into the 70s. But here we go. Look at this out west. This is a sign of some really big troughiness. Some areas not getting out of the 60s from Seattle down to Northern California, but the heat is on here into the Gulf Coast up through the plains, parts of eastern New England as well as we get into Wednesday. Look at this, though. It's kind of staying cool here with the clouds and the precipitation. And then look at Texas here. We're just baking. We're getting back into the 90s as we head into Thursday, September 19th here. Heat's just building, west troughiness, and cooler here into the lakes and northeast into the 70s into Friday. That just continues. Look at 70s down into North Carolina as well as the mid-Atlantic, and cooler up here in northern New England. But look at the heat is on here from parts of the Midwest southward as we get into next Saturday. That heat starts to push towards the Ohio Valley. But look at here, Mid-Atlantic to the northeast, 70s, and even some 60s here into eastern New England. Extended forecast for my hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. If we look through the Monday through Friday time range here, yeah, mostly sunny through Monday and Tuesday. Clouds rolling in later Tuesday, however. Into Wednesday, there is that chance of showers. It's not too much, but we could have some of those scattered showers about. It'll hold the temperatures down into the mid-70s. But look at this, by Friday, we'll be looking at mostly sunny and looking for a very nice week. bouncing back into the upper 70s. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.